Her billionaire father offered me $1 billion to leave her. My decision changed my life forever. At exactly 3:17 in the afternoon, a black limousine stopped outside the tiny mechanic shop where I worked, and a man in a perfectly tailored suit stepped out carrying a briefcase filled with enough money to change my life forever. He placed the case on the dusty table in front of me, opened it, and calmly told me that every naira inside would belong to me if I agreed to disappear from his daughter's life. I stared at the money, then at the photograph he placed beside it. It was a picture of the woman I loved, smiling beneath the afternoon sun. Her father's final words were simple: leave her, and become a billionaire yourself. Stay with her, and lose everything you have. If you believe kindness and second chances can change a person's life, please like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to Kindness Corner, because sometimes the greatest miracles begin when we choose love over money. My name is Kellan Dairo, and before that afternoon, I had never imagined that someone could put a price on love. I was 29, working 12-hour days repairing cars in a small neighborhood workshop, sending most of my earnings home to help my widowed mother and younger brother. I owned an old motorcycle, lived in a rented room above the mechanic shop, and had never stayed in a luxury hotel in my entire life. Then I met Seraphina Vale. She didn't care about my clothes, my empty bank account, or the grease beneath my fingernails. She met me one rainy afternoon when her car broke down outside the workshop. While everyone else was rushing past her, I offered her my only umbrella and spent nearly 2 hours fixing her damaged engine. She waited patiently beside me, laughing whenever I accidentally got oil on my face. Before she left, she thanked me as if I had done something extraordinary. To me, she was simply a kind woman. I didn't know she was the only daughter of billionaire magnate Octavian Vale. Over the following months, Seraphina kept returning, sometimes with her car and sometimes with no reason at all. We began talking during quiet afternoons, sharing dreams that had nothing to do with money. She told me she felt lonely in her enormous mansion, surrounded by people who wanted something from her. I told her that I had spent my entire life afraid of losing the little I had. Somehow, our fears made us understand each other. One evening, while we stood beneath the warm golden light of a street vendor's stall, she held my hand and told me that for the first time in years, she felt safe. That sentence meant more to me than anything money could buy. But our happiness did not last long. The day Octavian Vale discovered our relationship, everything changed. His private security team appeared outside the workshop, and the following afternoon, I was taken to a quiet office high above the city. Octavian sat behind a massive glass desk overlooking hundreds of buildings. He looked at me as if I were an insect that had somehow entered his world. He didn't shout. He didn't insult me. Somehow, his calmness was more frightening. He told me Seraphina was expected to marry a wealthy businessman who could strengthen the family empire. Then he opened the briefcase. Bundles of cash filled it from one side to the other. 1 billion naira. Enough to buy a house, start businesses, pay every debt my family had, and never work another day if I lived carefully. He said I could have it all if I walked away before Seraphina became too attached. For several minutes, I couldn't speak. I imagined my mother's leaking roof repaired. I imagined my brother going to university. I imagined waking up without worrying about rent or food. My hands trembled as I looked at the money. Then Octavian pushed a contract toward me. I only needed to sign and disappear. But something inside me kept showing me Seraphina's face, especially the day she told me she finally felt safe. I pushed the contract back toward him. I told him I couldn't sell the one thing in my life that had ever felt real. He stared at me for a long moment and asked whether I understood what I was giving up. I told him I did. Then I walked out without taking a single naira. That night, Seraphina came to my tiny apartment in tears. Her father had told her everything. She asked me whether I had really refused 1 billion naira for her. I smiled and told her I hadn't refused money because I didn't want it. I refused because I didn't want to spend the rest of my life wondering whether she was beside me because she loved me or because I had been paid to stay away. She hugged me so tightly that neither of us noticed the rain pouring against the windows. For the first time, I understood that courage wasn't the absence of fear. It was choosing what mattered while being terrified of the consequences. But Octavian wasn't finished. Within weeks, the mechanic shop lost its biggest contracts. My landlord suddenly demanded that I leave. Someone even spread rumors that I had tried to blackmail the Vale family. I watched my savings disappear while my mother became worried about me. Seraphina wanted to fight her father, but I refused to let her destroy her family for me. I told her that if our love was real, we would survive without revenge. So we started again from nothing. Seraphina used her business knowledge, while I used the skills I had learned repairing engines. Together, we opened a small automotive service center in an abandoned warehouse. The first months were brutal. We had barely enough money for rent, equipment, and food. Some days we repaired only one car. Other days nobody came. But slowly, customers noticed something different. We treated every person with respect, whether they arrived in a luxury vehicle or an old taxi. Our business grew. Within 3 years, we had opened several branches and created jobs for dozens of people who had once struggled just as we had. Then one afternoon, Octavian walked into our first workshop. He looked older, tired, and strangely small without his army of assistants. He had come to tell us something I never expected. His empire was facing a crisis, and one of his companies needed the exact mechanical technology we had developed. He could have bought another company, but instead he came to us. I could have humiliated him. I could have reminded him of the briefcase. Instead, I offered my hand. Octavian looked at it for several seconds before taking it. His eyes filled with tears as he admitted that the 1 billion naira he had once used to test my love had taught him a lesson no fortune could buy. He had spent his entire life believing people could be measured by wealth, influence, and power. Yet the man he considered unworthy had shown him the greatest form of wealth, character. Years later, I stood beside Seraphina on the balcony of our home, watching our little daughter chase bubbles across the garden. Octavian was sitting nearby, laughing as his granddaughter tried to catch them. The man who once offered me 1 billion naira to leave his daughter had become the grandfather who never wanted to leave her side. Looking back, I sometimes wonder what would have happened if I had accepted that money. I might have owned mansions, cars, and businesses. But I would have lost the woman who became my greatest blessing, the family we built together, and the peace that came from knowing I had never betrayed my heart. If this story touched your heart, please like the video, share it with someone who believes true love is built on character, and subscribe to Kindness Corner for more stories that remind us that kindness still matters. And before you leave, comment "Love is worth more" if you believe some things in life should never be sold, no matter how much money is offered. Because sometimes, the decision that costs you everything is the very decision that gives you a life you could never have imagined.